Right on the first day, I would like to thank you for everyone who involved this organization. And our Gandhi Shartse Dro-Phen Buddhist Center here in Singapore is doing very, very organized benefit programs. And such as this possibility, making the possibility for these precious days of our Dharma teaching, Dharma discussions to take place. May these teachings bring benefit to many. Now let us all generate a correct and strong motivation to teach and listen to these teachings by reciting the following 3 verses, which is Sanje Cheda, Tsoji Chonamla, and so on. So now we're going to start to discuss about this Adisha's very precious text. And I feel very fortunate to be able to discuss with you at the same time to learn by myself from this important text. We put first of all, we put some important dates of Atisha's life story. So I would like to present you this. The Shakyamuni Buddhas taught the Dharma in a variety of teachings, which number of 48,000 texts in suit to suit many mental and spiritual dispositions of the listeners. The essence of all these teachings is found in the text that we are about to study in the next few days. The title of this text is The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, Changchu Lamji Dharma in Tibetan, composed by the great Indian master Atisha Dipankara Shirijana. Most of you will be familiar with Atisha, but all the same, it is useful for us to recall briefly some of the main events in the life of this outstanding master. Atisha was born in 982 in India and died in 1054 in Tibet. He was born into the royal family of Sahor in present-day Bengal. At the early age of 5, he could talk on Dharma subjects. From the age of 10, he studied the 5 subjects: medicine, draftists, composition, logic, and Buddhist philosophy. He had a loving and compassionate nature, and he always wished to become a monk. As he approached adulthood, his parents hoped that he would marry, but all their attempts at the find a match failed. When he reached the age of 29, he took his monk's vows in the Mahabodhi temple in the Buddhagaya, a place many of you will have visited and pilgrimage there. He received both general education and Buddhist education in Sutra and Tantra from over 100 teachers. In time, his fame spread, and he became a Mahapandita, that is a great scholar. The Tibetan Dharma king Lalame Changshuwe invited Atisha to Tibet. Atisha, who lived in Virkamala Shila monastery in India, was given permission to go for just 3 years. At the age of 59, he traveled to Ngari in the West Tibet. It was during West Tibet. It was during this period that he composed the text that we are about to study. when the 3 years were coming to an end, he needed to return to India. But he could not because of some disturbances at the Nepal border. So he sent a message to ask into permission to extend his stay. At about this time, Domtempa, who was later to become his main pupil, visited him and requested him to go to central Tibet. Atisha proceeded to Samye and Yalung. After that, he arrived in Nyethang, very close to the Tibet's capital, Lhasa, where he lived for 9 years. He also visited Lhasa, Yerpa, and spent 5 years in this area. In all, he spent 17 years in Tibet, giving teachings, doing translations, doing translation work, revising and editing many texts. He wrote over 100 texts. He had many outstanding pupils. As I mentioned earlier, in 1054, at the age of 73, he passed away in Nyethang in Tibet. So as I said at the beginning, Atisha's the lamp for the path to enlightenment presents as a complete summary of all the essential points of the Sutra and the Tantras. So that much for Atisha's very, very short biography. And now I would like to explain a little bit about further activities. And I always find it's really important to know some background history. Number one, I think, it's useful to explain why he was invited to Tibet. Buddhism was imported from India to Tibet and during the 7th century and spread very much in 8th century. During this period, Tibet was mostly, how should I say, engaged with the Bön religion, which is ancient religion of Tibet. Very short description of Bön religion. Bön religion established by the Bön Buddha, Tenpa Shenrab, who was born very close to Mount Kailasha. Today, many people visiting that area. And they're also very much related, his theory, his teaching from the Central Asia. So this is the Bön religion. There are white Bön, black Bön, and so on, but this is not our subject. But however, during the 7th century, when the Tibet king Sonse Gampo invited Buddhism from India, the Bön teaching was very much highly spread. At that time, up to the King Sonse Gampo, so to say, national religion, as far as you can talk about national, the Bön religion was really main practice. According to Buddhist point of view, there were many misleading about doing practice such a religion. At the same time, King Sonse Gampo had great need to increase his power in order to accumulate many other kingdoms under his power. The best method, best equipment in order to accumulate his power is the religion. But the Burmese religion is, so to say, very spirited. It's nothing new. So therefore, he would like to have extra other religion to increase his power. So that was the Buddhism. His kingdom was up to that time 100% focused on Burmese religion. So therefore, in his palace, there are prominent Burmese teachers and Burmese ministers and all these things. So therefore, he had also great struggle to get Buddhism into his kingdom. However, he managed that he could send several young Tibetan fellow who was very intelligent, who was very promising to study, and they were in India and studied properly, and a few of them come back to Tibet with good knowledge. Among his students, Themi Sambota, one of the great scholar and outstanding student, came back from India and brought many, quite number of Sanskrit books, including many practice on Avalokiteeshvaras. And he translated in Tibet in Tibetan language, and give teachings to King Songtsen Gampo. And Songtsen Gampo practiced on Avalokiteshvara, and later he composed about 2 volumes about Avalokiteshvara practice. These 2 volumes, called Mani Kambum, they work on money. Mani means Omani Peme Hum. And I make it short. There are many things to be interested, to listen, to be in a very interesting subject, to be listened, but this is not our main task or main material. So, however, during the 8th century, the Nada king was very much enthusiastic to spread the Buddhism. So therefore, he invited Pema Sambhava and Shantarashita and many other Indian masters to Tibet. Through their visit to Tibet, it was made possibility to set up very first Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Samye, and at the Samye they established 8 different institutions. One of these institutions was translation department. Through these activities, started right at the beginning 7th century till I presume 13th, 14th century. Ancient Tibet masters, translators, so many Buddhist works from India to Tibet. And all in all, we have about 100 volumes Buddha's work, Buddha's word, and 25 volumes about the sub-commentary from Indian Buddhist masters, which called Tengyur. Songtsen Gampo was 33, number 33rd, do you say 33rd or 33? 33 Tibet kings. And the next king, Trisong Detsen, was 38th Tibetan king. During all these kings, they have a big problem to increase, to establish Buddhism in Tibet, because of Burn religion is still very strong. So therefore, if you read Tibetan history, which is written by Tibetan Buddhists, you can't hardly see, you hardly find any effect by the Burn practitioner. But if you read Tibetan history written by Burn, so then you can see very different views. Buddhism itself is, of course, a very peaceful teaching, and based on according to Mahayana, based on bodhicitta and so on. But this precious Buddhism need to be practiced by the human beings. So human beings are, generally speaking, very much affected from the different kinds of delusions. So therefore, during these several kings' time, during the time of several kings, the king and his people, many of these Burn practitioners was killed and murdered, and they had big problems. They destroyed many Burn literatures, Burn texts, and destroyed Burn temples, monasteries. More or less, some kind of cultural revolution was established during this time. This was a really very, very sad history, sad part of Buddhist history or Tibet history. But during the time of 41st king, Langdharma, he was from Burn house, so he was Burn king. So therefore, he was absolutely not agreeable whatever the previous kings did. So therefore, he destroyed Buddhism or Buddhist practitioner in Tibet. So therefore, he killed many Buddhist monks, nuns, and many Buddhist practitioners need to be get away from the central Tibet. Some of them reached to the very, very east in Tibet. Some of them very in the west Tibet. Since that time, 70 years long, there were no Buddhism in Tibet. So therefore, from the Buddhist Tibet, Buddhists are talking about 70 dark years in Tibet. So later, he was also murdered by the Buddhist practitioner. So however, after 70 years, from the east and the west side, slowly spread Buddhism to central Tibet. But still, there are many misleadings, many misinterpretations was established. And there are many people who misinterpreted, especially in tantric practice. So without going deep in the history, I want to explain following things. So because of this misleading, during that time we had Tibetan monks king, a king who was monk. He felt this really can't be pure Buddhism. So therefore we need to have some kind of purification. And so then he sent a few more scholars to India in order to looking around to find the reliable masters to invite to Tibet. And few of them came back to Tibet and explained that we found the Atisha and Dipankara Shirinjana in Birkamala Shila Monastery. If you could invite him, he is the best. But it's more or less impossible to invite because he is the most outstanding master, pandita in that monastery, or generally in India, in India generally. But other, we don't find really suitable master for us in Tibet. I think there are quite a number of texts or books translated into, at least into English, maybe also in Chinese, about regard this matter. So therefore, we don't need to go further deep. But however, after so many struggles and problems, Tibetans were able to invite him to Tibet. And as I mentioned earlier, so during his stay 3 years in the West Tibet, he composed our text. When he composed this text, he spoke or he wrote in the very first part, because of so anyway, I couldn't find the translation properly. So, however, he said, because of my good people, Changshupe asked me to compose this, so therefore I'm going to write this. So that means good people. This is the only occasion that he spoke to someone as good people. Because it's not the Changshupe or the monk king didn't ask him to compose a book which is very profound and very high tantric or very exotic or whatever. But he requests, please compose as, which is very benefit for our mind. So therefore, he was delighted to hear this formulation. So because this king has a very good motivation in order to remove all these misleadings and impure spread in the Buddhism, spread impure Buddhism. So therefore, Atisha was very much interested to purify Buddhism in Tibet. There's one interesting part of history. When he first reached to Tibet king and all this minister or whoever, they were very much, how should I say, they were invite him in big scale with so many horses and whatever, many decorations, many brocades, whatever. So Atisha said, oh, the devils from Tibet are coming. So he just put his robe on the head, and he doesn't want to see, not see even all these receivers. And Atisha's translator asked to the Tibetan receivers, please don't do this big scale. Atisha doesn't like, so please be humble. So then they changed their clothes and put their monk's robe or whatever, very simple way. So then Atisha was very much pleased. And one time, Atisha met great translator Rinchen Sangpo, who came from Ladakh, and he was also a great scholar. And they met each other, and they discussed about happenings in Tibet and about Buddhism. Then Ati said, "You are wonderful, you are such a great master. So actually I really don't need to come here. Since you are here, so you can do work, whatever I should do." But later, Atisha was learned that Rinchen Sangpo couldn't do any good deeds for the purification of Buddhism or religion in Tibet, better to say Buddhism. And then he said, "Yes, of course, I need to be here, because otherwise he couldn't do his work properly." All in all, his teaching was based on very much bodhicitta. This is his really main task, to achieve or to increase bodhicitta. Whenever he meets the people, instead of just saying just "how are you" or "good morning" or whatever, he just asks them, did he have a good heart? And whenever he say goodbye to the people, so please be good heart. These two things are very, very important for his communication. So one day he met someone who replied, "I had a quite problem with my angry, with my impatience." So he said, "Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. That's very, very bad. You must try to be good heart. It's if you have such anger, it will damage not only you yourself, but many other peoples. So therefore, please be careful with anger." We are talking about three root poisoned mind, which are ignorance, attachment, and hatred. The attachment is most difficult to varnish, but the hatred is most damaged one. So therefore, some master says hatred is more dangerous than attachment, more harmful than other delusions. Of course, there's no single such delusions without causing problems in our mind. But hatred is most disturbance for even our daily life. If we explain about delusions, of course we can and we have to explain separately each of them. But if we get in our mind all these delusions, there will be some kind of combination, right? If for instance, if you have anger, this anger based on attachment, anger based on, of course, ignorance, anger based on jealousy, anger based on whatever, many other aspects of delusions. As I put it in my small booklet, being good human beings, there's also, I think, one or two Atisha's quotations. So if you are alone, watch in your mind. If you are the mass, watch your word. So this message is for us really very, very essential. Usually, many of us, or most of us, living, so to say, looking outside. So that means we are watching only other people's, what they are doing, what they are talking, instead of inward. So that means what I'm thinking. Am I wrong or am I right? And what kind of purpose do I have in order to saying this, in order to doing this? Whether all these are very much linked with my egoism or not, whether do I harm any other human beings or other people. All these things need to be watched, need to be studied by ourselves. Some of us must be tempered. So if so, we shouldn't think that I'm tempered. I can't help by myself. So my nature is tempered. That's not correct at all. Because nature of mind is not generated by such kind of a delusion. This temperament is without outer control, increased. So therefore we need to try to reduce and control it. I always try to explain my students, and I always try to think by myself. And whatever rises in my mind, of course, since I have all different kinds of delusions, there will be many aspects of thoughts will be coming in my mind. But at the same time, I can a little bit try to judgment whether this kind of way of thinking is correct or not. And if I, for instance, if I would like to say something to the people, and would it be correct formulation, or do I need to change the way I'm going to speak? So I'm just a little bit think without, okay, so anyway, so it's great help for me. After thinking, speaking, it's wise, it's good. Without thinking, just shouting or just talking something, just saying something, it can be very dangerous. We are trying to Dharma practice. We are trying to practice Dharma. So that's because of that we would like to change, because we need to have more peace in our mind. We need to achieve more peaceful state. This is our aim. So that means we have some, we are seeing or we are feeling that our condition is not very pure. And we think it must be pure than this. We practice Buddhist because of unemployment or whatever this, worldly problems. I have so many diseases, so many other problems. Therefore, I'm practicing Buddhist. That's not the way. But we would like to obtain from subtle happiness, very steady happiness. This is our main task, right? So therefore, we need to work on that. And it starts right at the beginning. We need to check in our daily life. Atisha said, we have problem because of lack of practice on deity yogas, but lack of the Dhamma practice. So in that case, he just explained precisely, generally speaking, deity yoga is not necessarily as a Dhamma practice. But Dhamma practice is based on correction in your mind. And deity yoga and all these tantric practices, whatever, external practice, formal practice, are additional, very supportive to the Dhamma practice. So Dhamma practice is really based on the change of your mind. I always talking about good human beings. I can really say none of us would like to become bad beings, bad human beings. But everybody, all of us, would like to be good human beings, right? But this good human being can only be good human being through the effort of ourselves. It wouldn't be made by other people. So therefore, we must taking care by ourselves to become good human being. What does it mean good human being? Good human being means without or less have delusions. If someone, my regularly explanation or example, if someone is very, how should I say, tempered, no one says he's a wonderful man, he's a very wonderful, hatred man. So if we say, it wouldn't suit in our language, right? He's a wonderful, unfriendly person, right? So always good human being is very friendly, very peaceful, without having this and that kind of, at the end, all delusions or very less delusions. These are the good human beings. So therefore, Atish is focused on the bodhicitta in order to become a good human being. So therefore, he explained very basic way. And he also taught actually more or less very, very less occasion tantrics. So generally, his teaching was bodhicitta teachings. Among his students, Dro-Phen was outstanding, most respected people. And from the Dro-Phen, there were three main disciples of Dro-Phen. And these three people were named as three brothers of Kadampa. And from these three brothers of Kadampa, established three different kind of teaching method of Kadampa. And number one is Kadam Shungbowa, that means Kadampa who is mainly focused on the literatures. So that means they are during their teaching and studying, focus on the 6 literature of Kadampas. And these 6 literatures are Jataka, 34 chapters, with 34 chapters, and then there's one group of several subjects, which we call Chom, and then 2 literature from the 2 texts from the Shantideva, which is Bodhisattva Chaya Avatara, and another one, and then from Maitriyas, Changsa Bodhisattva Bhumi, and Sutra Alankara. These are the 6 literature of Kadampa. They base on their study and practice on that base, on these literatures. And the second is Kadampas who was focusing on the profound method or profound teaching. So that means those Kadampas try to get out or take out the essential points from these literatures and put into practice. Number 3 is Kadam Lamrim. So that means those Kadampas who was very much focused on the practice step by step. Lam is path, Rim is gradually or step by step, but it's possessive. So therefore they put it into practice and in the way of, step by step. So these three kind of Kadampa traditions, of course, on behalf of the different inclinations to the people. But however, at the end, all these three traditions were accumulated into Tsongkhapa's tradition. Kadampa's main way of, how should I say, practice or main focusing is not showing their great achievement to outside. But that means they're always trying to keep their good progress, keep privately. So if you see from the outside, you wouldn't notice that much. But inside, you are very clear. Such as light in the vase. This is typical traditional way of thinking, way of talking. So if there's one light in the vase, from the out of the vase, you can't see anything. But inside is very bright. So after he's composed our text, according to Indian tradition, he has to send to India, to his monastery, to approve. At that time, there are certain systems. If the other panditas, other great scholars, after the checking by the other great scholars, if they find this is a very good book, so then they will prize to the author. But if this book is not very valuable, so they bind at the dog's tail and they bring to the city on the street just round, showing such a bad book wrote by so and so. That was at the dog tail, dogs. So after he sent this book to his monastery, they all panditas was delighted and respected her very highly, and asked him again, please compose a commentary to this. This book is wonderful, but it's a little bit too short, and so therefore we need to have more explanation. Please compose a commentary. So he also written that. So now I'm going to read first in Tibetan, so then try to explain a few words. Chanju lamji dhamaju so chanju sama jambashinu jabala janza lo tuzun jawata jisno jawa tamja tadi je gindu na ko chim jaja lamadu zaju kujibe chanju lamji dhamaju so zaju lo jojibe je bo so je baja tanze so so ye de baja kanji lan ta ko ko do za lo ji de nyer je baten je batam je sebe de je dibelo so kanji raji de de jibo de ja raji de do kanji ji do ga da ba 그런데 기부된 저희는 심지도 무슨 달라다만 지다베야나 양다다는 셰버로 자. So now he started first to homage to the Manjushri, who is Bodhisattva. The meaning of Bodhisattva in Tibetan, for instance, Chang Chup Sempa, 4 words. Chang means overcome, purified, fully removed, in the sense of removed all spiritual or mental obstacles. Chup means accumulated, obtained, belongs to. So that means, Chang Chup means whatever to be removed, and whatever to obtain, he has obtained. So that means this Manjushri, who has a mind of fully enlightened and fully, that means full recovered or removed all these obstacles and accumulate all the good mental qualities. Same as mind. Pa has two meanings. One meaning is very powerful. Another one is possessive. Possessive, who possesses this kind of mental qualities. If you like, one can explain all Lamrim under this meaning of Changshu Samba Bodhisattva. That means fully enlightened or fully obtained bodhicitta. Of course, you need to have its cause. So that means great compassion. In order to have a great compassion, you must be loving, kind, or kindness. And of course, it's based on the proper understanding of suffering by the others, and the proper understanding of really the condition of samsaras. In order to understand samsara sufferings by all sentient beings, of course, you need to first, by yourself, how much cost, what kind of condition do you have about or from out of the samsara. So therefore, you need to understand by yourself about all sufferings, and on top of that, you have to also understand the law of causalities, and law of causalities, basic taking refuge. And of course, in order to take a refuge, you need to know your condition, the length of your life, and what can happen if you reborn in other lower realms, and what kind of do you have in the very life. So that means whether it's very precious or not. If yes, which way you are seeing your life, your very life as pressure. And how do you know all these methods, all these conditions, and all the method from coming out of these conditions? So that this will be, we will get all this information through the great kindness of your masters. So therefore, this complete Lamrim can also be understood through the only this word from Bodhisattva. It is very important to homage to a very precious one. This is also some kind of become a tradition if you compose text. So therefore, Atisha homage, the very first homage to the Manjushri. But this Manjushri is, of course, we can understand as a very precious being, Manjushri. But at the same time, Manjushri is emanation of essence of Buddha's bodhicitta. So therefore, he homage to the bodhicitta at the very beginning of this text. So therefore, we can understand the beginning of our practice or whatever. At the beginning, it's also very important to remember a bodhicitta, and during the process of activities, also important to remember bodhicitta, and at the end of the work or activities, also important to think of bodhicitta. So that means thinking about bodhicitta is always important. What does it mean, thinking about bodhicitta? It's not necessarily, of course, but maybe I can explain this way. It's not necessarily always thinking that I would like to, I must achieve Buddhahood, I must achieve Buddhahood. This, of course, is our main task or main aim, but it's, on the other way, it's not really that realistic. The realistic is, in order to achieve Buddhahood, we need to go step by step. We need to approach many good levels. We need to overcome from many obstacles. These are our responsibilities, right? So therefore, we have high aim, but we need to start from the very low level. Shantideva excuse me, wrote in his work Bodhisattva Jaya Avatara, you will reach Buddhahood through the great help of the three jewels, as well as same as from the sentient beings. So you will achieve Buddhahood equally from the three jewels and sentient beings, without having any difference or distinguish, right? So therefore, why don't you respect all sentient beings so high that you're doing to the three jewels? It is incorrect that we're making offerings, prostrations, whatever to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and at the same time we are fighting with other sentient beings, we are quarreling with other people and jealous and whatever, all these problems involved. There's no way to achieve Buddhahood if we do this way. So after that, he said that I'm going to write this book on behalf of good people, so-and-so, and I homage to the three jewels. So there are important points to be explained about three jewels, but about taking refuge comes later, so we can discuss on that matter another day. So maybe that will be enough for today, and if you have some questions, we can do that. Thank you.
If you all have any questions, you can take the mic. Otherwise, if you're you prefer to write on a paper, you can do so. And we have papers over here, so you can raise up your hand if you want to. Otherwise, you can take the mic.
Good evening, Rinpoche, Church today. Yeah, if we already have the bodhicitta minds, and so can we escape when we do the meditations or practice? Can we escape?
What's the last part? If you have bodhicitta vows?
Yeah, we already have the bodhicitta mind.
Okay.
So can we escape when...
escape?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means whether it's possible to lose your bodhicitta, right?
Can we don't have to concentrate on bodhicitta mind?
What does it mean?
Her question is that if we already achieved the realization of bodhicitta, then
realization.
Yeah.
Okay.
真的菩提心了嘛，对不对？是有菩提心的意思吗？对，所以就是 achieve the realization of bodhicitta. And then when we do practice, can we skip, the process of practicing bodhicitta and achieve, higher realization?
To skip, to make short, right?
Yeah, 你的意思是说，
就是我们不需要就是在专注于菩提
we
心
don't
这
need
方
to
面。
focus on bodhicitta anymore, and then achieve further
That's
higher
right.
realization.
That's right. You don't need to focus on bodhicitta because your mind is bodhicitta. So therefore, you can't talk about whether it's to make extend or short or skip or whatever. Your mind is bodhicitta. You don't have any other mind as than the bodhicitta. Do you understand?
Okay, thank you.
So maybe a very short explanation or example. I'm not sure whether you're a mother or not, so never mind. If you are a mother and if you have a child, and if your child is really sick very seriously, and as your mother, as you as a mother or parents, you're always thinking about rescue or cure from this disease. You don't need to encourage to think about that. This thinking, the way of thinking to cure is always automatically there. So just like this, if you reach really bodhicitta, so then your way of thinking bodhicitta is you can't stop it. Okay, please.
Yeah, Rinpoche, I have a question down here. Just like earlier I mentioned about the Dharma practice and deity yoga. Can you further elaborate what is these two particular practice? Dharma, what do you mean by Dharma practice and yoga deity?
Mm-hmm. Do you mean the difference between yoga,
Yes,
deity
yoga
yoga
practice
and Dharma practice,
Yes,
right?
that's right. Because earlier I was mentioning about this
That's
relation
right.
in relations to
That's
happiness.
right. That's right. That's right. So theoretically, whatever you practice, in the sense of Buddhist teaching, in the sense of Buddhist teaching means whether you practice sutra way or tantra way, it need to be help in order to correct your mind. Then everything is Dharma practice. But, okay, please. So that means Dharma practice to be understood as correction of your fault in your mind. But if you practice Tantra in order to whatever achieve this and that powers and without focusing on the change of your mind, then it would not be as regarded as Dharma practice. So at the end, shortly, Tantra practice need to be antidote of overcome delusions. If it's so, it's Dharma practice, otherwise it's not.
Rinpoche, could you kindly briefly explain the difference between bodhicitta and compassion?
Bodhicitta and compassion.
The difference.
Compassion is mainly focusing on the mainly focus of the suffering of the samsara. So that means I need to explain a little bit. If you are thinking about all different kinds of sufferings of the samsara on behalf of your subtle happiness, this is the, what is this? This is the come out in Tibetan Ngenju, the I don't. These three principles. The number one. Renunciation. That's right. Renunciation of samsara. If you're thinking, if you focus the samsara on you, this is the renunciation of samsara. If you put this pattern of thinking to the sentient beings, this is the compassion. So by the sentient beings, so how they are suffering through the different kind of sufferings, and I can't bear this, and I can't bear this. This is terrible. This way of thinking is compassion. And the bodhicitta, because of that, I would like to achieve Buddhahood. So bodhicitta is one mind, 2 points. This is a special terminology of Buddhist philosophy. That means 1 point, one reason is you would like to achieve Buddhahood because of others. So these two. This both aim accumulated or gathered under one mind. So this is bodhicitta. Just a moment, please. Okay, microphone to over there. Yes.
Good evening, Rinpoche.
Yes.
Just now you mentioned that without mind transformation or mind correction and with Tantra practice, that's not Dharma practice. Am I right?
Not necessarily. It can be. It can be.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask you, what about the reverse? If you have mind correction but no Tantra practice or no any form of Buddhist practice, sutra practice, or how do you call it? Do you understand what I'm saying? Sorry.
What is the second part? What does it mean?
I'm saying that just now you mentioned, earlier you mentioned that mind correction, without mind correction,
Yes.
But what if it's reverse? If you have mind correction but you do not have Tantra practice, does that make it Dharma practice?
Do you mean that certain practice without having mind correction?
No. Sorry, I think I won't use the mic. Let's say if you do have mind correction,
Yes.
but you don't do Tantra practices or don't do any form of deity yoga,
Yes.
is that Dharma practice?
Yes. Yes.
So
Definitely.
it's more powerful than the other way where you do
Well,
Tantra or
well,
mind correction?
this is difficult questions because which way is really powerful? It depends on your way of practice. If I'm a good practitioner on Tantra way, so that means if I have a really very profound quality of practice in the sense of emptiness and bodhicitta, and in the sense of proper understanding of Tantra way, then it's, of course, a better correction of my mind than without having deity yoga. But if you have not qualification, if you're not qualified all these qualities, so then better you remain as you are, wherever you are, in the basic level, and trying to focusing very much on the training of your mind and Lamrim and so on. These are much more profound or more benefit. Yes, you're welcome. Ask question, please. But you are not forced. Okay, microphone. 听一下。
Her question is that since Rinpoche mentioned about great compassion, so she said she would like to request Rinpoche to like identify, what loving kindness is. The loving kindness. Do we need to develop loving kindness?
Again.
She would like to request Rinpoche to define the meaning of loving kindness, and also do we need to develop loving kindness?
So this matter will be, this part will be explained later days. Yes.
人不觉得说这个部分之后就，对，悲心，然后悲心之前是慈心，对
Yes.
对，
我们本身具有吗？还是需要培养啊？然后慈心是怎么去知道这叫慈心？
对我刚翻了，然后仁波切是说这个部分呢，就是明天会讲。
Okay, man. So thank you very much. So, thank you.